Hello and welcome to Tech360. My name is Ayush Alavadi. We're here on the road yet again, bringing you a very special show. But we want to start off with a very important development. It's all about the Apple Watch and a new feature that's being launched here in India, Hypertension Alerts. How does it work? What is it all about? And more importantly, the team that made this happen. In fact, the VP at Apple from Cupertino is going to be talking to us in this special episode. Have a listen. How many of you watching wear a smartwatch or some sort of wearable? It could be a recovery band, maybe a ring, or an Apple Watch. I, for one, have been testing the Apple Watch for years and tracking all the new features that come with every update. But this week is special because a feature they announced at the Apple event in September has finally made it here to India. It's hypertension notifications for patients with high blood pressure or hypertension. This can be a lifesaver. But how accurate is it? Are they using just one sensor? Is there some sort of new software tweak? Because the Apple Watch Ultra 2 is pretty much the same watch that launched in September. Apple's Sumbul Desai joins us live from Cupertino. Sumbul, thanks so much for joining us on Tech360. We're going to pick your brains on everything Apple Health and Apple Watch. I want to start off by asking you, hypertension notifications are a big step for wearables. Now, how did Apple actually crack passive detection of high blood pressure using just the optical heart rate sensor on the Apple Watch?
Using the optical heart sensor on Apple Watch, the algorithm looks for signs of chronic high blood pressure by analyzing how your blood vessels respond to the beats of the heart. When your heart beats, it actually pushes blood outward, away from your heart. Blood pressure momentarily increases and blood surges outward. As that surge happens, blood vessels stretch outward, responding to the pressure. Everything we build in health is grounded in science. The feature was developed with advanced machine learning and training data from multiple studies totaling over 100,000 participants. The algorithm was then validated in a study with over 2,000 participants spanning broad representation across demographics. In the study, participants wore Apple Watch for 30 days while also taking twice daily blood pressure cuff measurements, which were used to establish ground truth.
I find this fascinating. You're expecting over 1 million new hypertension detections in year one. How do you strike the balance between giving users meaningful guidance and information without causing unnecessary panic, Sumbul?
We design all of our products and features to be there when you need them and fade into the background when you don't. We're not incentivized by the amount of time you spend on our devices, and because of that, we have a high bar for when we do notify people of a change in their health data. We really want to ensure that the notification is accurate, meaningful, and helpful. So I'll explain a little bit more. In addition to extensive validation before releasing a feature, notifications must meet a certain threshold before it even reaches a user. We have teams of physicians, designers, engineers working together to ensure we're surfacing meaningful insight to users in a way that's easy to understand and take action when needed. We also think quite carefully and thoughtfully about how we're presenting information to our users, especially when it comes to your health. And it's a critical part of our development process, including user experience testing, and from words to colors to the source, these are all things that we think about in the design of our products.
You're talking to us from Apple Park, and at Apple, we've seen that a lot of the features that you launch, especially in the health and wearable space, are not gimmicks. They're features that people actually use, me included, especially on the Apple Watch. I've always been curious, what is that acid test or the internal guideline or framework for the teams at Apple Health to decide which of these ideas actually become features on the Apple Watches and other devices?
It's such a great question. We reach people in ways that only Apple can. At Apple, we're deeply fortunate to serve customers in every corner of the planet. Today, there are hundreds of millions of iPhones and Apple Watch users who not only love their devices, but take them wherever they go. And when we reflect on those numbers, we're not just proud, but we're also incredibly motivated because we see a profound opportunity to improve people's lives. We're not in it to reinvent healthcare, but we do want to change your relationship to healthcare and to yourself. And as both a doctor and a patient, I know it can be overwhelming to think about your health. So at Apple, we really want to change that, and that starts with giving everyone simple, approachable ways to lead fuller, healthier lives. So in the end of it, we really think about how we can have the most impact for our customers and make a meaningful change in their health.
I've noticed sleep is a huge part of Apple's health push of late. Why focus so heavily on sleep literacy now, and what role does sleep score play in that vision for Apple?
Most people understand the importance of physical activity, but we actually tend to underestimate the impact of what happens to our bodies when it feels like we're doing nothing at all, otherwise called rest. And yet, sleep is absolutely fundamental to our health. It's the time our bodies need to recover and renew. And when we don't sleep, the consequences can be quite severe. So, for example, after 24 hours without sleep, your reaction time slows. You notice changes in your memory, you might have some muscle tremors and impaired vision or hearing. By 72 hours, those symptoms increase dramatically, and you might even start to hallucinate. And even if we're not talking about anything that extreme, simply not getting enough sleep over the long term has been shown to raise your risk from everything from depression to high blood pressure. So in many ways, when it comes to your daily health, there's very little that's more important than sleep. We know how important it is to develop healthy sleep habits, so we've created features like the Sleep Score, Wind Down, and Sleep Tracking. They're just simple, easy-to-use tools that can make it easy for anyone to improve their sleep and ultimately their quality of life.
Better sleep, better recovery, better health and fitness, and a good quality of life. That's exactly what all of us strive for, even here on Tech360. Sumal, thanks so much for joining us and telling us all about these new features when it comes to Apple Health and Fitness. And I'm sure we're going to be using these, especially when we travel around the world, to bring all this tech content together and fight that jet lag and make sure that we're giving you quality content with quality of life as well. Thanks so much for joining us. 2025 has been all about AI and foldables, but how many screens is too many screens? That's the question we wanted to ask. And all of a sudden, the leading foldable maker, Samsung, comes out with a successor to the Z Fold 7, which happens to be a TriFold. Comes from nowhere out of the blue. We were expecting it at some point. We didn't know it's going to be, well, a December festive surprise. 3 screens on sale in Korea from December 12th, coming to the rest of the world next year. What does this look like? And what's it going to be like when it actually comes in our hands here on Tech360? Here's a sneak peek.
Samsung Electronics had launched the Galaxy Z TriFold, a smartphone that unfolds twice to reveal a 10-inch display, marking what the company calls a major step forward in mobile design for the AI era. The Galaxy Z TriFold uses a multi-folding inward design that protects the main display, while keeping the folded device compact enough to fit in a pocket. When fully unfolded, the 10-inch Dynamic AMOLED 2X main screen operates like 3 smartphone displays placed side by side, giving users significantly more space for multitasking. To support the complex folding mechanism, Samsung has redesigned its hinge system. The phone uses 2 hinges with a dual rail structure that ensures a smooth folding experience despite the weight distributed across 3 panels. Despite its triple folding construction, the Galaxy Z TriFold remains slim at 3.9mm at its thinnest point when unfolded. It runs on the Snapdragon 8 Elite mobile platform for Galaxy and includes a 200-megapixel main camera. The phone sports a 5600 mAh 3-cell battery and supports 45-watt wired charging as well. The phone will be available first in South Korea on December 12, 2025, followed by other markets. Right now, the only competition the Samsung Galaxy Z TriFold has is the Huawei Mate X-T, which still has limited availability across the world and can currently be found only in the hands of tech enthusiasts. With Samsung's wider distribution network, the TriFold may find acceptance in a wider market and eventually become a mainstream product. But we will have to wait and see.
Well, there's usually action-packed episodes here on Tech360, but when we're on the road, we try to cram in so much more from these scenic locations. Now, this is a secret location. Of course, we're up north. Christmas festive cheer is upon us, but there's so much more in the second half of the show. I'll see you on the other side. Welcome back to Tech360, and now we want to talk about one of the biggest newsmakers of the week, which happened to be an application on the App Store. Now, what was this all about? What was the government directive? What really happened? What the backlash was like? And what the real tech elements were that worried you or probably instilled some safeguards in your user experience? That's what we want to get to the bottom of. Sanchar Saathi, what is it all about? And this is a Tech360 explainer busting all those myths.
How intertwined have our lives become with our smartphones? It is no surprise that stories and news related to phones capture national interest. This week was the same, thanks to the Sanchar Saathi app. It rose, caused an uproar, and was made to bow. We'll talk about it, but first, I hit the streets of New Delhi to check your opinions on it.
Tell us what you know about the Sanchar Saathi app.
I am not aware about this app right now, to be true.
Whichever phone you're gonna buy, you're gonna put your credentials, the IMI number and all the credentials about your data, Aadhaar card and everything, so that the traceability of your phone would be managed.
I believe it's an app that is supposed to be on the phones, and the government would place it there on new phones which are going to come in the market.
जो भी नए फ़ोन्स आएंगे तो उसमें इम्पोज है कि उनको कंपलसरी है कि वो ऑलरेडी डाउनलोडेड मिलेगा उसमें. इसके हमें डिफरेंट बेनिफिट्स भी हैं.
Data frauds, your phone getting stolen, so all these things will be intact because of the Saathi app portal, sir.
It is a step which our government might be trying to take in order to keep a check,
And you're okay with it being pre-installed?
Obviously, I am okay, totally okay with it.
So I believe it is a really good initiative and it should be there. I don't think it will consume much of your MBs and all, but it is something to make people vigilant. So it is a really good initiative and should have been done before, I believe.
We anyway put so much of our lives online. Anybody can track us through social media. I mean, most people really put everything. There's a generation that literally lives online, right? So I don't understand what is the need for another kind of app, and I think the concerns about surveillance then obviously do come into play.
Forceful नहीं है because again it is for your safety purpose, right? फोर्सफुल तो वो होता है जो आपके लिए सेफ्टी पर्पस के लिए नहीं है या आपके लिए हित में नहीं है.
अभी ये कंफर्म नहीं है ना कि कितना डाटा गवर्नमेंट देख सकती है, कितना नहीं देख सकती.
As a common citizen, I am exploring all other apps. I'm on the internet. I'm ready to share all my information with the public domain. It is there on public domain all the time for everyone to see. So why not, if my country is trying to look at its citizens and filter it for the protection reasons, or to keep the citizens or keep the people safe.
While the Sanchar Saathi portal has been around since the 16th of May 2023, the app was launched this year on the 17th of January. It is a useful tool to report stolen or lost phones and then track them. But on 28th November, our Department of Telecommunications issued a silent directive ordering every manufacturer of any phone being sold or even imported in India to pre-install this app on all new phones. And if the phone is out of the manufacturing line and it is in its sales journey, then push a software update that will install the app on user's phone. And all of this was to be done in 90 days. What pulled the trigger was the order explicitly stating that functionalities must not be disabled or restricted. So of course the reactions, they were pretty swift. Tech giants like Apple and Samsung and Google, they raised their concerns, and some even pushed back, because any software, especially government software, when made mandated, it sort of creates a privacy minefield. The app and the directive, it also got heavy resistance and backlash from the opposition, of course. And so Minister Jyotiraditya Scindia confirmed in the parliament on the 3rd of December that the mandate is revoked.
अगर आप इसको अपने फोन पे रखना चाहते हो तो रखो, अगर आप इसको डिलीट करना चाहते हो तो डिलीट करो. जिस तरीके से, उदाहरण के तौर पे आपके फ़ोन पे जब आप फ़ोन खरीदते हो तो उस पर कई ऐप्स आ जाती हैं, जैसे गूगल मैप्स भी आ जाता है. अब आपको गूगल मैप इस्तेमाल नहीं करना है तो आप डिलीट कर लो. अगर आपको संचार साथी इस्तेमाल नहीं करना है तो डिलीट कर दो।
इसका मतलब ये ऑप्शनल है सर।
ऑब्वियसली डिलीट कर सकते हो आप।
I am personally little happy that this controversy did shine more limelight on the app because it kind of remains one of the only concrete ways to access CEIR, the database, and help block your stolen or lost phone's IMEI across all networks. The new Chakshu feature in the app, that's also pretty neat. You can report annoying scam and fraud calls directly to the ministry. The mandate might be gone, but the app, the portal, and some of its very useful features, they're still alive.
Do you think if it was voluntary and people were more and more informed about it, that there is an existence of such a benefit or an app or a portal, do you think that would have been a better implementation approach?
Of course, because each and every step that the government takes, it may be in a good light. However, a consensus-oriented or a discussion-based or a awareness-based approach is always, it takes precedence over such a forced action. Of course, that should have been taken by the government.
मतलब ऑप्शन तो होना चाहिए ना हर आदमी को अपना.
Tell us if you found it useful enough to use it. You know how to reach out to us.
We're on the hunt. We're actually searching for our very own Batmobile, or shall I call it Techmobile. Most importantly, which of these cars or these monsters or tech machines will pass the Tech360 vibe check? Are they comfortable to drive? Do they have all the features that we need as content creators, as tech freaks, as tech geeks? Well, all of these questions will be answered in this new series where we are on the hunt for our new Batmobile, as I said earlier. Today, we start off with the Kia Carnival limousine, the new one, which is an updated look, feel. It's bigger, it's wider, and it's a lot of action on the inside. But is it a true bang for your buck? Does it pass the vibe check? And what's it like on the inside? And to drive this vehicle and to be driven around in? Well, let's get this show started. Now, if this car has to qualify as the Techmobile or Batmobile for the team, then there's a bunch of things that need to work, which is this massive infotainment screen, which is slightly curved, so it's ideal for the driver. Apple CarPlay, Android Auto work like a charm. Connected in an instant, very smooth and intuitive touchscreen. Also a bunch of features that work here, which honestly make your job very easy if you're commanding this spaceship from the front. The text, the font, very easy to read, very simple prompts. More importantly, the heads-up display works. When you're sat over here, ventilated seats are a complete game changer. A whole lot of storage over here. You can cool the seats, you can heat the seats. Obviously, we're going to be cooling them here in Mumbai. A bunch of bottles can easily fit here, so that makes your job a whole lot easier. You have wireless charging, which does work. You have USB-C ports, fast charging, sorted. While all of this works like a charm, this isn't the sportiest car. It's not meant to be. This might look a little bit like an SUV, but it's not an SUV. It's an MPV in the same league as the M9 or the same form factor as the Wellfire. Much smaller. When we parked it next to a Wellfire, you realize that this is tiny, and the Toyota Wellfire is bigger. It's double the price. It's twice more luxurious. And honestly, the Wellfire has the sort of presence that is unparalleled on Indian roads. The Alphard that I've driven in Tokyo as well also gives you a very similar feeling. In fact, it's a very similar car meant for a different target group. But this is strangely at 75 lakhs, a budget version of that, but it gets the job done. Largely, this is the interior, very well done. But given that the previous model was at nearly half the price, it does leave a big question mark on a lot of our heads, saying, how do you justify a 2x price increase? But I'll leave that to the experts to come out with a verdict. Over here, in terms of tech, everything is on point. Kia cars seem to get their tech right. In fact, even some of the inexpensive Kia cars like the Sonnet, you have air purifiers, which are needed nowadays. You have all the tech working. You have AI commands in English as well. So yes, the Koreans, the Japanese are genuinely miles ahead when it comes to getting tech right and giving it to us in a lot of these cars. But there are certain features which you get in this car, in the international version, which you don't necessarily get in this one. There you have it, a top candidate in our search for a new Techmobile here on Tech360. Luxury MPV, yes, but there are certain things that could be better. The price, for one. This is a space where everyone is milking the price. This one doubled from its previous version, nearly 75 lakhs. Even the MG M9, being an EV, is almost around the same price. Even if you consider the Wellfire, which is obviously the Japanese luxury Toyota Wellfire, that's 1.5 CR. Again, a big bump up in price. The Toyota Innova and Innova Hycross themselves, with all their tech and reliability, have also gotten quite expensive. It is an incredibly expensive car, but a very niche segment, so maybe Kia can manage to do that. In terms of the tech inside the car, everything works on point. But this was only the first candidate in our search for our new Techmobile. There's going to be a lot more. Maybe the Wellfire, maybe the MG M9, maybe one of these new tech-loaded Batmobiles made in India. But let us know what you made of this in the comment section below, and do write to us on our social media handles. The hunt continues. Well, yet another action-packed episode of Tech360 draws to a close. We hope you've enjoyed this episode. Do follow us and send us feedback on our social media handles. My name is Ayush Elavadi. Until next week, adios.